of the speakers that will be joining us in person on the weekend, I am like beside myself about, because I have admired this woman and what she has endured, how she's risen above it, and how she has demonstrated how a woman can be pushed down and she can still rise. And that person is Meghan, Duchess of Sussex. And I can't believe I'm even saying those words. There's no one more shocked than me, because I know what you're all thinking, because I'm thinking the same thing, which is, how has Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, this incredible woman, gone from Oprah to talking on stage with just little old me, Gemma, in Sydney? So I'm going to explain how this has come about, because I think it's really important that you guys understand how this opportunity has come for our community.
So something interesting just happened, and you can already hear the distant rumbling of keyboards in certain British newsrooms preparing their usual dramatic meltdown. Because guess what? Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, is heading to Australia. Yes, Australia. And not quietly either. She has been invited to take part in something called the Her Best Life Retreat, a multi-day event taking place from April 17 to April 19 in Sydney. The event brings together women for conversations about personal growth, resilience, purpose, and living intentionally, themes that clearly align with Meghan's public advocacy work. And one of the headline moments of the retreat will be a conversation between Meghan and Gemma O'Neill, followed by an intimate gala dinner where attendees will get to engage more directly. Now, before we go any further, let's pause for a moment and acknowledge reality. Because if you listen carefully, you can already hear certain tabloids warming up their favorite phrases, dusting off their standard criticism playbook. Why is she doing this? Who asked for this? Why can't she just disappear? Is this attention-seeking? What about privacy? And yet, here we are again, another international event, another invitation, another stage where people actually want to hear from her, where organizers believe her presence will draw attendees and create meaningful conversation. Funny how that works, isn't it? Because for years now, literally years, we've been told the same story over and over again by parts of the British media ecosystem. According to them, Meghan is supposedly irrelevant, unpopular, finished, forgotten, cancelled, exiled, banished, has been, washed up, desperate for attention, and yet also somehow simultaneously the most talked about woman on the planet, the person who generates more headlines than almost anyone else, the name that drives clicks and engagement like few others. Yes, somehow all of those contradictory things exist at the exact same time in the same media narratives. It's a magical media paradox that would be hilarious if it wasn't so transparently dishonest. But here's the reality that no amount of negative coverage can obscure. People invite speakers they believe audiences genuinely want to hear from. Events bring in guests who inspire conversation, who have stories that resonate, who can draw attendees. Retreats like Her Best Life don't build their entire program around someone, don't make someone a headline feature unless they know with confidence that there is genuine public interest. And clearly, demonstrably, there is substantial interest in hearing from Meghan. Because the organizers of the Her Best Life retreat didn't choose Meghan randomly or accidentally, or because they couldn't get anyone else. They chose her very deliberately, intentionally, strategically. And if you want to understand why, if you want to understand what they saw in her that made her the right person for this event, all you have to do is listen to what Gemma O'Neill said when discussing why she wanted to have this conversation with Meghan. Her words were simple, direct, and honestly, pretty powerful in their clarity. She said, "I have admired this woman and what she has endured, how she has risen above it, and how she has demonstrated how a woman can be pushed down and she can still rise." Now, take a second to really absorb that sentence. Let it sink in fully. Because that right there, that specific articulation, is the reason so many people around the world continue to support Meghan, continue to be interested in her story, continue to want to hear from her directly. Not because anyone thinks she is perfect or without flaws or beyond criticism, not because people believe she has never made mistakes or poor choices, but because her story, her journey, her experience over the past several years resonates deeply with a lot of women around the world who see their own struggles reflected in hers. The experience of being criticized unfairly or disproportionately, the experience of being underestimated or dismissed, the experience of being pushed down, knocked back, told you're too much or not enough, the experience of facing obstacles that feel overwhelming, and the determination, the sheer refusal to keep going anyway, to keep building, to keep speaking, to keep showing up. Whether you personally like Meghan or not, whether you agree with her choices or not, there is simply no denying that the last several years have been an extraordinary, unprecedented example of sustained public pressure and media scrutiny. From the literal moment she entered the British royal family as Harry's girlfriend and then fiancée, the scrutiny was relentless and intense beyond what most public figures experience. Headlines dissected absolutely everything about her background and family history, her previous career as an actress, her first marriage and divorce, her clothes and fashion choices, her tone of voice and way of speaking, her friendships and who she spent time with, her body language at events. Even the way she held her baby, her own child, became a topic for endless debate, analysis, and criticism. At one point, British newspapers were literally writing opinion pieces, dedicating column space to discussing how she ate avocado toast. Avocado toast! Let that sink in. That's where the national conversation went. That's what was considered newsworthy. Imagine waking up every morning knowing that something as completely ordinary and mundane as what you ate for breakfast could turn into a headline, could generate commentary, could be twisted into evidence of some character flaw or moral failing. It sounds absurd because it is absurd. It's beyond absurd. It's surreal, Kafkaesque even. And yet that was the environment, the reality Meghan was navigating daily as a working royal. Every choice analyzed, every move scrutinized, every outfit costed and critiqued, every expression interpreted for hidden meaning. So when Gemma O'Neill says she admires how Meghan has endured and risen above all of that sustained pressure and negativity, she is reflecting and articulating something that many people around the world have noticed and respected. Because despite all of that noise, all of that relentless criticism, all of that manufactured controversy, Meghan has continued to move forward with her life and her work. She and Prince Harry made the difficult decision to step away from royal duties when that system became untenable for their mental health and family well-being. They built an independent life in California on their own terms. They launched media projects through Netflix and other partnerships that give them creative control. They created the Arkwell Foundation to support causes they genuinely care about. They've consistently supported mental health initiatives, veterans programs through Invictus Games, humanitarian work in various countries, and community building efforts. And through it all, Meghan has continued to speak publicly about topics that matter deeply to her. Women's empowerment and gender equality, mental health awareness and destigmatization, representation and diversity in media and institutions, community building and social connection. These aren't random topics she picked because they poll well. These are issues she's been passionate about since long before she ever met Harry, going back to her activism as a young person. Now, let's talk specifically about Australia for a moment, because this location actually adds another meaningful layer to this story. Many people remember, those who were paying attention to royal tours at the time, the first major royal tour that Harry and Meghan did as a newly married couple back in October 2018. And guess where that tour began? Where the first stop was? Australia, Sydney specifically. The crowds were enormous. People lined the streets in massive numbers. Public interest and enthusiasm were through the roof. Media coverage was intense, but largely positive at that point. It was one of the most energetic, well-received royal tours in years. Commentators at the time talked endlessly about something they called Meghan magic, that intangible quality, that spark that seemed to draw people in, that made people want to connect. Fast forward to today, to 2026, years have passed. Circumstances have changed dramatically. The context is completely different. But the connection between Meghan and Australia, the interest Australian audiences have in her, clearly hasn't disappeared or faded. Now, she's returning to the country not as a working royal doing ceremonial duties, but as an independent speaker, invited specifically to share her perspective and experiences at a retreat focused on women's personal growth and empowerment. It's a very different context from that 2018 tour, a completely different framework. And in many ways, it represents something important about how Meghan has successfully reshaped and redefined her public role since leaving royal duties. Instead of operating within the strict, suffocating structures of royal protocol, where every word is vetted and every appearance is choreographed, she now chooses the spaces where she wants to show up, where she believes she can have meaningful impact. Spaces where conversations can be more open and honest, where experiences can be shared more directly without institutional filtering, where discussions about resilience, leadership, motherhood, mental health can happen without the constraints of palace traditions and never complain, never explain doctrine. And that's exactly the type of environment a retreat like Her Best Life creates, intentionally. These events are not about ceremonial appearances where you shake hands, smile, and say nothing substantive. They are about genuine dialogue. They are about personal storytelling and sharing experiences. They are about connecting with people on a human level rather than a hierarchical one. Which is precisely why Gemma O'Neill's comments about admiring Meghan resonate so strongly with the retreat's target audience. Her admiration isn't based on tabloid narratives or palace PR or royal mystique. It's based on observing a woman who has faced extraordinary, sustained public criticism, often rooted in racism and sexism that was barely disguised, and still managed to build something meaningful with her life and platform. And that message, that example, matters profoundly, especially in a world where women in public life are routinely held to impossible, contradictory standards. If they speak up and advocate, they're called difficult, pushy, aggressive. If they stay quiet and don't engage, they're called weak, passive, complicit. If they show ambition and drive, they're labeled calculating, opportunistic, manipulative. If they step back from the spotlight, they're accused of being irrelevant, washed up, disappearing. It's a no-win game deliberately designed to be unwinnable. And Meghan has been right at the center of that dynamic, experiencing it at maximum intensity. Yet despite everything, despite the relentless criticism, despite the racist attacks, despite the institutional abandonment, despite the manufactured controversies, she continues to show up. She continues to participate in public conversations. She continues to support causes she believes in. She continues to use her platform for advocacy work. And events like the Her Best Life retreat provide a platform for exactly that kind of direct engagement and discussion, a space where women can talk openly about challenges, growth, resilience, purpose, without the conversation being filtered through layers of hostile media commentary, a space where Meghan can speak for herself rather than being spoken about. And let's be completely honest. That alone is probably enough to make certain critics very uncomfortable. Because the moment Meghan steps into spaces where people are actually listening to her directly, where she controls her own narrative, something interesting happens. The narrative becomes significantly harder for media to control and manipulate. For years now, the public conversation around Meghan has often been shaped primarily by people talking about her rather than to her or with her. Columnists writing opinion pieces, panel shows debating her choices, opinion writers analyzing her every move, royal commentators speculating about her motives. But events like this fundamentally shift the focus and the power dynamic. Instead of hearing secondhand interpretations filtered through others' biases and agendas, audiences hear directly from the person herself. They get to evaluate her words, her perspective, her story, without the distorting lens of tabloid narratives. And that changes everything. That's why direct engagement is powerful, because when people speak for themselves authentically, the noise and distortion around them becomes a little less powerful, a little less effective at shaping perception. Which brings us back to Gemma O'Neill's quote that perfectly captures why this event matters. "I have admired this woman and what she has endured, how she has risen above it." That sentence captures something simple, yet profoundly powerful. Resilience, the ability to keep moving forward, keep building, keep creating, even when the world seems determined to knock you down. The refusal to be defined by criticism or limited by others' expectations. The transformation of adversity into purpose, of difficult experiences into motivation for something better. And whether someone agrees with Meghan on every issue, or political position, or personal choice, resilience as a quality deserves recognition and respect. It's the quality that allows people to transform trauma into advocacy, to take painful experiences and use them to help others facing similar struggles. And that's the kind of story, the kind of example that resonates with audiences far beyond any single country or culture. Not just in Australia, not just in the United States or Canada, but genuinely around the world. Because everyone, regardless of background or circumstances, understands what it feels like to face obstacles that seem insurmountable. Everyone understands what it means to be underestimated, dismissed, told you can't or shouldn't. Everyone understands the feeling of being knocked down and having to make a choice: stay down or get back up. And everyone appreciates seeing someone refuse to stay down, someone who gets back up repeatedly, someone who keeps building despite opposition. That's not about perfection or sainthood. It's about human determination and spirit. So, as the Her Best Life retreat approaches in April, as we get closer to this event, one thing is absolutely certain. The conversation around Meghan is not going away anytime soon. Not fading, not disappearing. People will continue to debate her choices. Commentators will continue to speculate about her motives. Headlines will continue to appear. Some supportive, many critical. But beyond all that noise, beyond all that manufactured controversy, there's a simpler, clearer reality. A woman who faced extraordinary public scrutiny and pressure. A woman who made the difficult decision to step away from an institution that was harming her and her family. A woman who continues to speak, work, and engage with communities and causes around the world. And now, that journey brings her back to Australia in a new capacity. Not for a royal tour with protocol and ceremony, not for a formal visit with ribbons to cut and buildings to open, but for a conversation. A genuine dialogue, a conversation about resilience, about growth, about what it means to rise after being pushed down, a conversation about women supporting women, about finding purpose, about living intentionally. And judging by the response already building around this event, judging by the interest and ticket sales, it's a conversation many people are ready to hear. Because sometimes the most powerful stories are not about perfection or having all the answers. They're about perseverance, about continuing despite difficulty, about refusing to be silenced or diminished. And that is exactly what makes this moment, this announcement, so interesting and significant. The return of Meghan, Duchess of Sussex to Australia. A new chapter, a new platform, a new context, and another reminder that despite years of sustained criticism and manufactured controversy, her voice continues to reach audiences across the world. Her story continues to resonate. Her platform continues to exist and matter. And that, whether critics like it or accept it or not, is a story that isn't ending anytime soon. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you're excited about Meghan's Australia trip, subscribe for coverage. Let's keep celebrating her meaningful work. Until next time, stay resilient, stay supportive, and keep rising. I'll see you in the next one.